We have another new company for you here at Chipstock Investor. We're going to be talking about NextPower. But before we do, I just want to remind you to hit that subscribe button and check out chipstockinvestor.com. We have weekly blog articles, we have a free weekly newsletter, and we have our semi-insider membership where you can get access to every single piece of research we have out there, as well as an expanding tool set for investors.
We'll do a separate video on it later on, but one of the new tools that we've just implemented is price alerts on those reverse DCF calculators. Pretty cool, something that we are implementing into our workflow. It's something that we wanted, something that didn't exist yet, and so we built it because we want to use it ourselves. Check it out over on Semi Insider.
Chipstockinvestor.com. Okay, let's talk about NextPower.
This is continuing on the presentation we did on Flex, because NextPower was a Flex at the time. It was called NextTracker, got spun off of Flex, which used to be Flextronics. Now it's NextPower and just Flex. But NextPower, what do they do, Casey?
Let me tell you where they fit in. For starters, specialty energy and equipment and robotics. NextPower provides the systems that help with tracking solar panels. Solar panels that are not fixed, but actually move to gain the most energy from the sun. They have some equipment that manages that, as well as the software to manage that specifically.
It basically turns a utility scale solar farm into a field of sunflowers. They just kind of tilt to follow the sun. How's that?
And they're not the only ones that do this.
Makes sense? You would think it sounds like, okay, all the tech know-how would be in the solar panels themselves and all of the electrical equipment. Actually, this is what has helped NextPower be successful since the spinoff in 2024. They know this. So they're actually doing a lot more than just tracking, helping the solar panel companies track the sun with their solar farm, which is why they changed their name to NextPower. Here's some of their competitors. They have a few private competitors as well. They're at the bottom. They just filed an IP patent infringement case against Game Change Solar. They're at the bottom.
It's a terrible name anyway.
Yeah, so that's going to be pending. But I think it illustrates the fact that just the tracking hardware and software in of itself is not we can use another cliche, a moat. So they're getting into some other stuff that's kind of cool. On the right, they have some of these new solar tracker technology, not just that tilts with the sun as it moves from east to west, but also rotates based on the season. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, the sun sits lower in the sky during the winter. So that angle tilts the solar panels gradually to follow the sun as it gradually dips lower and lower on the horizon and then tilts them back up during the summertime.
They also have power converter.
Yeah, power converter. Number of acquisitions were just announced. One of them is they're getting into power conversion. So they bought some tech that helps them design inverters. So solar panels generate DC, direct current. That DC goes into a battery, a BESS, battery electric storage system. DC goes into the battery. In addition to that, they're going to get into the battery business. Who isn't these days? But then you also need to convert it coming out of the battery, going to the grid, to AC, alternating current. So that's where the inverter technology that they acquired will come in. And then you mentioned robots. What is this thing? This is not a humanoid robot. I don't want to invest in something with wheels. That's so boring.
It's an industrial robot. This thing does all kinds of cool stuff, I read. It cleans the solar panels. It helps them turn. It does all kinds of neat things. It's like a little nanny, a solar panel nanny.
You're a nanny for your sunflower farm.
Yeah.
Predictive maintenance. Anyways, that was another acquisition. This has turned into a bottleneck in the solar world.
We need to do a teardown.
I'll email NextPower and ask them if we can have a robot to do a teardown and we can do a bill of materials analysis. Just kidding. They would never do that. But we would if they offered.
We would. Sure.
A couple of newer stock indices on the research dashboard. Typically, NextPower, especially when it was called NextTracker, we would put specifically on the solar energy and solar materials stock index. You can find it there now as well. It's still there. But in addition, because of some of these acquisitions that they've made, they're broadening the portfolio. They want to get more into software, but also starting to get into the power equipment space with the inverters and the battery electric storage, and basically helping their solar farm customers make more efficient use of those things and sell the power more efficiently back into the grid. So we have to put them on the power generation and distribution list, which just went out yesterday. So they kind of are going to start running up into some of the equipment that some of these guys provide as well. That's interesting to see them expand beyond just the solar tracking market. And as they've started to make this transition, you can see why they're doing that. The last few quarters, especially in the last year, you've seen some revenue growth stall out. It's probably not just a function of the tracking business not being a no moat thing. There's also some political things going on as well. When the Trump administration came in, you had questions about the Inflation Reduction Act. Is that going to stay in place? There's now the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And a lot of these solar tax credits can still be had if the project gets started by July 4th,
2026.
So I think a lot of companies are possibly going to be ramping back up these projects.
You've got 3 weeks to break ground.
3 weeks. Get those shovels in the ground now. So perhaps we see a bit of growth come back for NextPower in subsequent quarters. Also, there has been some volatility outside of the US as well, the rest of world growth outside of the US. There is some elevated competition, per usual, in the solar market coming from China. So NextPower does have a pretty robust international emerging markets business that is starting to come under pressure from some of those companies competing out of China. They're included on the initial list that we showed you at the beginning of the presentation. Arctech, Trina Solar, those are two that they cited specifically as competitors on their last annual report. Okay, outlook.
They did increase their outlook for fiscal year 2027 just a bit, from 3.6 to 3.8 to 3.8 to just over 4 billion. So that implies a revenue growth of 6 to 14%. And then on the adjusted EBITDA, they upped it between 825 and 900 million. And an adjusted earnings per share, which is actually down a little bit on an adjusted basis, to 4% up.
And that would be in part because of the recent acquisitions that were made. So this is kind of an investment year for NextPower. They're upping the ante a bit. So you can expect to see the profitability take a near-term dip as they integrate those. We wanted to demonstrate enabling notifications, ultimately based on everything we've just looked at. NextPower isn't a buy that we're interested in right now. Maybe at the right price, we'd buy this. So there's where you can find this. It's under the reverse DCF calculator tab. And we put in NextPower NXT stock, adjusted the growth rate. We did 5 years. I adjusted it down to 12%, terminal growth rate of 4%. That made a discounted price of just over $80. It's currently trading at well over 100, almost 120. And then you can hit the save this scenario. Let's just say you find the reverse DCF value that gets it to fair value now. You hit the little green download button at the top of the scenario, and then you can save the scenario and get a price alert. So maybe the scenario that gets the stock to fair value today doesn't meet your criteria, but what if you want to build in a margin of safety? In the case I just showed you in the little video, we lowered it down to a growth rate of 12% over 5 years. That gets the stock to around $80. So now you have a price alert with actual data behind it, other than just drawing lines on a candlestick chart. And using the 8-ball, now you actually have a data point behind that. You can save the scenario, get a price alert. If that price actually hits, you can adjust anywhere from plus or minus 10% or lower, tighten it up all the way down to 0 if you want the exact price to hit, and then send you an alert.
We've covered some interesting facts about NextPower, looked at their guidance. What does that mean for us here at Chipstock Investor?
If you didn't catch it yet, we did have a separate video about Flex and another spinoff that it's doing. Make sure you catch that. We'll link that here. Watch that next. That interests us. But as it regards to the solar industry, solar tracking technology, all the connectors that are needed for that, power conversion connectors, battery assemblies and enclosures, guess who does all that?
Amphenol.
They do it all. So I think we'll stick with Amphenol for now. Stay tuned on Flex and join us over on Semi Insider, where we'll talk more about that, I'm pretty sure, at some point in the not too distant future.
Make sure you watch that video on Flex. We'll link it right here.